Freya, I'm so excited to introduce her. She is our main speaker for the day. In 1998, she was told the same thing that you were, nothing that she can do. She was a busy, busy woman. She had her own business as an event planner. She was a wife. She was the mother of three. And all of a sudden, she was taken down. And she will share more details about her story. But the main thing is, hey, she's almost 80 years old today and still healthy. She has done a huge amount of advocacy work for the Consumers for Dental Choice, for the International Association of Oral and Medical Toxicology. She was very active in the FDA hearings for mercury amalgam safety. She has given over 20 years of dedicated service to informing people with ALS and safety in dentistry. So I am honored, Freya, that you're with us today, sharing your story. So Freya, why don't you go ahead and tell us how it started and share your story.
And I also want to say how proud I am of you and Scott for what you've been doing with people who have ALS. You're amazing. And I wish you were around when I found out that I was mercury poisoned, but I did it on my own. You really have to be your own advocate if you are diagnosed with a serious disease, is what I found. I was suddenly struck with double vision. I had never had double vision before one evening leaving the theater. And I waited for a while, 9 days, and I went to my optometrist. And she examined me and she said, "You're not leaving my office until you have an appointment with a neuro-ophthalmologist at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital." So that's what we did. And I went down there, they did some blood work and called me 4 days later and said, "You better come down here right away. Your blood work is abnormal." And I saw a neuro-ophthalmologist for the first time. And he said, "You've got MS or lupus." And I just had a friend who died of lupus. I was 56 years old at the time. And I was frightened. And I thought, this is the end of my life. And I asked him, what's the cause? And how can you cure this? And he said, "There is no known cure. There is no known cause. You better get used to it. You're going to be sick for the rest of your life." I walked into the other room. I cried. I called a friend. I said, "I have MS." I left and I decided that I was not going to have MS and I was going to find out what did this to me, because you don't get MS in a day. And I bought an eye patch and I went home and I went online. And I stayed online for 5 days, 20 hours a day. And at 3:30 in the morning on the 5th day, I found out what happened to me from a woman in England. I was on a group who were discussing MS, and she had MS for 10 years. And she heard about the link between multiple sclerosis and silver amalgam dental fillings. I didn't know they were 50% mercury. Nobody had ever told me that, my dentist nor anyone else. So she went to an ordinary dentist who hadn't been trained to safely remove her fillings, like the IAOMT dentists have. And she had 2 fillings removed, and 7 days later, she was struck with double vision. And I was in shock, because exactly 7 days before, I had had an old filling removed and a new one put in. And I assumed at that time that must be what caused it. And then I started to do more research on mercury amalgam dental fillings and how would I get help. And I found the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. At that time, it was the only mercury-free dental organization. And I called them and they were very, very helpful. They recommended a few dentists that weren't too far from me. And they also recommended an organization called Dental Amalgam Mercury Syndrome. It's a nonprofit, small organization that helps people who are mercury poisoned or think they are. And they recommend dentist to them, and they send out information, and the vice president happened to be living in my neighborhood. And I remember calling her at 10 o'clock one night and saying, I think I'm mercury poisoned. I was diagnosed with MS. Her name is Carol Ward. The very next day, she had a packet in my door. And I found a functional medicine doctor to work with in Quakertown. It's Dr. Buttram, who diagnosed me with mercury poisoning. And he gave me vitamin C IV drips and a whole slew of vitamins that I should be taking. Also, I see, I'm looking at the screen, and I didn't mention that the abnormalities in my blood tests were Epstein-Barr, Raynaud's syndrome, a very, very elevated ANA titer, which means I had an autoimmune disease. And I believe there was one other, rheumatoid factor, Epstein-Barr, elevated liver enzymes as well. So my doctor, because of the elevated liver enzymes, he did not want me to do to take any other drugs to detox, because he didn't want the toxins going through my liver. So he gave me vitamin C IV drips, and I had one every week for a couple of months. And I had to, at that time, I found a dentist in Scranton, Blanche Groovy, and I had to have somebody drive me up there because I had also lost part of my equilibrium. It was difficult for me to walk properly because my muscles had been affected. And I started the process of having my fillings removed. Took about 6 months because I had a full mouth of fillings. From the time I was 8 years old, they were putting them in. Incidentally, my dentist of childhood died fairly young. So I'd like to just mention that I think that dentists, I know, dentists who have had many illnesses due to their professional exposure to mercury, placing them and removing them. They have the I don't know what the story is right now, but when I was doing my research, dentists had the highest rate of suicide in this country due to being exposed to mercury. And I think that they are victims as well as the patients, because the American Dental Association told them they were safe and never suggested that they tell their patients that those fillings were 50% mercury. So I feel, they are victims and we are victims. And they have suffered as well. The American Dental Association still says these fillings are safe. And it is unfortunate. The Food and Drug Administration, I believe, Tish, am I correct here, that they say that they're not safe for children under 6 and for pregnant women? I think that is the do you recall?
Yes, they're not safe, and it's also not safe for neurological diseases. So what I want to do actually is just back up just a touch and make sure that we kind of got all of the information, and then we'll go on to what's happening today with this. So I think the main thing is just a few things that we missed. So we went through this one. I think this was a big one. You missed a few things on this one. This was very upsetting for you as you learned that, a lot of people just say, I don't want to know, or they'll go to their doctor and they'll say, well, and the doctor says, and their dentist, they both say the science is garbage. There's no reason. This has nothing to do with your MS or your ALS, that fillings have nothing to do with it. And we hit neurologists all the time and said, there's no link to fillings and ALS. So, how did you know to listen to your research and not listen to your doctor?
Well, fortunately, I went to found a doctor who diagnosed me with mercury poisoning. And I knew that all the other doctors that I went to, they didn't, not only didn't they know about the possibility that mercury from dental fillings can cause those diseases, because incidentally, the third disease I was diagnosed with by another neuro-ophthalmologist was ocular myasthenia gravis, which could be a deadly autoimmune disease. And I had a drooping eyelid for 3.5 years that started almost immediately. And I never took drugs to relieve that. It just slowly went away as I changed my diet to no sugar and no wheat, and took all my supplements, and I've got, the vitamin C IV drips. Slowly, my eyelid went up. So I think that, you really need to be your own advocate. That's what I keep telling people. I believed that I was going to get well. I never thought that I would remain sick because I didn't want to live that way. And I know that if I hadn't done what I did, in all probability, I wouldn't be here today. And I would have suffered for years with MS and ocular myasthenia. Still have some minor double vision because there was damage to the nerve and the muscle in the ocular branch of the trigeminal nerve. So that there's some remains of that, but other than that, I'm fine. Although I must say something else, that since I had all these fillings in my teeth all those years, when I was in my 40s, I had a case of depression, and I had no idea where it came from because my life was wonderful. I had 3 children, and I was happy, and I was doing my thing, ballet and so forth and so on, and my work. And for 2 years, I had depression. And I believe that it was from the constant vapors that come off of those fillings as long as they're in your mouth. They don't stop. As you talk, as you sleep, the vapors come off and they're going into your brain. And the other thing that I found out, so that's what I believe in terms of depression, and it slowly went away with my fillings being removed. There was something else I wanted to say.
Well, we'll get I want to say something to you before we go on to the next screen, but also we have talked to so many people whose ALS symptoms started. The 3 most common triggers for ALS are vaccines, filling removal, and stress. Believe it or not, those are our top 3 of a trigger. What people say, well, what was going on when you first got your first symptoms? Those are the triggers. Did I miss anything, Scott?
And toxins. I would put that right on up there with it.
Right, but toxins is usually slow onset, unless yes, occasionally they'll be exposed to something. They'll have a major exposure of something. There was one guy that basically went into a toxic waste thing without any protection, and literally his yes. So that's the other one. So that's it. So that's one of them. And then you also did. Can you talk about the
genetics?
The genetics, exactly. We missed that as well.
Well, later on when I really got involved, and I with the IAOMT, and I met many doctors and dentists who were very aware of what was going on, and it was suggested that I have an APOE test taken, which is a test it's a genetic blood test that is used if people start having symptoms of dementia or Alzheimer's or forgetfulness. You can have this genetic predisposition if you have what they call APOE 3, 4, or 4, 4. And I and several other people I know who are mercury poisoned have 3, 4. That is one of the diagnostic issues that they look for if people have those symptoms. If they have 3, 4, then ordinarily they say that a regular doctor is going to say they're going to get Alzheimer's. And I believe that if I didn't have my fillings removed properly, that I probably would have gotten Alzheimer's if I lived that long, from the MS to the lupus and the myasthenia. That is something that I don't know about ALS patients, but is that a test that they use for them? APOE?
So the APOE is more for Alzheimer's than for ALS, but it is very important because it measures your ability to get rid of mercury. And what I found most fascinating is that your provoked and unprovoked heavy metal test did not show high levels of mercury. Yes, they were definitely elevated, but they weren't that high. And so people say, oh, that means I'm not mercury poisoned because my metals tests are showing that I don't have mercury. What it means instead, what it can mean are these relatively low levels, even though you were very severely poisoned, is that you have trouble detoxing them. Well, guess what? Then it's not going to show up in your hair. It's not going to show up in your urine because you are what we call a non-excreter. You're a sequesterer, someone who doesn't get rid of metals easily. So because of your genetics, your tests showed up that they were low, but that's because your detox pathways weren't clear.
That's true. That's true. You know, and I think about how many people, I mean, thousands of people who have these autoimmune diseases like the MS and the lupus and the myasthenia, they're never tested for anything. They're never tested for heavy metals. They're never tested for toxins. It's just accepted, and they're labeled and given drugs, and they never get well. So, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing that I found the doctors and the dentists to help me, but you've got to, again, I have to say, you have to really think for yourself. And I think the people on your ALS list and the people who rely on you have done that. They're thinking for themselves, and for the most part, they're doing what they need to do to get better. And that's what, you know, if anybody is diagnosed who is listening to this program with any autoimmune disease or Alzheimer's, this is something that they really need to look at and find a doctor who can help them get the proper testing. I mean, that's Dr. Groovy removing my fillings. And you can see that she was protected, her assistant was protected, and so was I. And I had the vitamin C IV at the same time. She gave me that as well. So it's extremely important that if you're going to have your fillings removed, that you find a dentist who will do it safely and protect you. That you don't want to be exposed to further mercury when those fillings are removed.
Okay. And by the way, if your dentist on this protocol, if your dentist doesn't use a dental dam, some of them feel that it's just as safe to do it without it. I just want to personally disagree because you could potentially swallow it if they don't have the suction in the right place. There is some controversy, but you can always ask for a dental dam. So just so you know, that's your option. You say, look, I'd like to have a dental dam, even if that's not your normal procedure. Originally it used to be, and some people have been saying it's not, but I just wanted to let you know that's your option. And so this is your basic protocol, Freya, that we discussed. It wasn't, you know, she did work to choose which supplements. You worked with your doctor, right? They suggested all these supplements. So. Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting that certain of the vitamins that you took were for detox. It took 8 years to get your liver enzymes normal again.
Yep, it did. It did. And 3.5 years for my eyelids. And the autoimmune disease is still evident. And I really don't know what to do about that. I haven't yet found the answer to get, to reducing that ANA titer. even the functional medicine doctors aren't sure how to do that as well. So if there's anybody on this program who has any suggestions, I'd like to hear them. But
Okay.
physically, I've been very, very active, and it has not affected me.
Okay, great. Fantastic. See, these are a few of the vitamins she took, but again, Freya said she didn't remember them all, but people saying, what are the ones? There are lots and lots and lots more that she took, but these were some of the basic ones that she took to help her detox and help her slowly but surely cure herself, which is very interesting. I find this 3.5 years very interesting because look at this. It took, you guys are all saying, well, I've been doing this for a year. I've been doing this for 2 years. I don't see any difference. It took 3.5 years for her eyelid to stop drooping. So give yourself the time. It takes time to get the toxins out of your body. It's going to take time for you to get your functionality back. And just for her eyelid functionality, it took 3.5 years. So that's really important. So, and then go ahead, Freya.
No, and then I just felt so strongly that so many thousands or maybe millions of people had been affected. And that I really, I'm not sure where it came from, but I knew I had to do something about it to bring public awareness. I joined an amalgam list. There was one at that time on the internet, and we used to discuss our issues together. And I was, it was suggested that I go to Europe. They had the first meeting, government-sponsored meeting on dental amalgam mercury poisoning was in Luxembourg. And they had some very important speakers there from several different countries. And I did go there and I did speak briefly. But I met a woman who was a doctor in Sweden, and she had an ELISA test, and she was testing people with her, and it's still available, by the way, testing people for mercury toxicity. And you're showing photographs of other people, Karen and Karen Burns, who were both dental assistants, which I think is important to mention also. They were both badly affected by the mercury that they were exposed to in their profession. I keep looking at the pictures here. I just felt like I had to do anything and everything possible to help the public in the United States. And Europe knew more than we did. They took amalgam fillings. They were speaking about taking amalgam fillings off the market in Sweden. And they took them off the market in France for children and pregnant women, and in Switzerland and in Norway. Yet our Food and Drug Administration would not hear of it. I worked with Charlie Brown for Consumers for Dental Choice in Washington, and we set up 4 hearings with the Food and Drug Administration. We had people testifying from all over. They came from all over the United States, dentists and patients and physicians, and I was testifying there as well. And I must mention Dr. Boyd Haley from Kentucky. He was the head of the chemistry department at the University of Kentucky, and he discovered the link between mercury and dental fillings and so many diseases, including Alzheimer's disease. He was amazing. He testified. They ignored it. They ignored all the testimony from the dentists, from the IAOMT, from other organizations, from medical doctors, and patients who had suffered and been tested. Food and Drug Administration to this day will not take it off the market. And I was actually, during that period of time, I was the liaison with the Food and Drug Administration. And I got the feeling from them, even directly, their hands were tied. At least who I was working with, Dr. Ajoda, I felt like his hands were tied. And
So I think this is really an important thing. The people lower down in the FDA all agree these things should be banned. But if the head of the FDA, the guy at the very top of the FDA, is evil and won't do it, and used to work for the one in 2010, she used to work for the largest amalgam filling manufacturer
yes.
in the country, and yet she didn't recuse herself. She recused herself like 6 months. She worked on it after the 2010 hearings. She didn't recuse herself during all these hearings. She was running the FDA. She recused herself just before the announcement was made. Big deal. Freya sent me this letter this morning. This is from 2007. Here it is, 2021. And this is just a few of the things. You can see this letter. I know it's kind of probably hard to read, but thank you for taking the time. This past September, this was because the 2006 ALS, one of the FDA hearings. You look at what's happened. This is back in 2006. They're discussing the danger of health. You know, Ben Zander, conductor of the Boston Philharmonic, we have a 5-minute video we showed on an earlier Sunday on here. He recovered from Meniere's disease. I mean, we have millions of Americans affecting from this and millions of people worldwide. Okay? This is Robert Evans. This is just all this stuff on the safety issues. Then I read down here, it was like they had the hearings, and then after the hearings, they had 3,000 letters coming to them. And yet they did nothing. Where's the 3,000 letters? Here it is. Since the hearing, we have had over 3,000 public comments submitted to the FDA with a plea to remove mercury from dentists. So this is 2006, 2007. Scott and I attended the FDA hearings in 2010. And the same thing, we had hundreds of people write letters, thousands of people write letters. I don't know, we had at least 50 people doing testimony on their own dime. They actually flew to Hagerstown, Maryland to the FDA hearings, and they said, please, my husband has been damaged. My children have been damaged. I have been damaged. These are diseases. These are Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, ALS, MS, cancer, all of the heart disease. All of these diseases have been linked to mercury, and yet they've done nothing since 2006, 2007. They've done nothing since 2010. This is still happening today. What is going on?
One person who really has been amazing, and that is Linda Bricado from Chicago. She was in her 20s when she was affected. She is still in a wheelchair. She still cannot walk, but she regained every other ability that she had. And she has worked so hard on this issue. She's really, quite an amazing, she came to Washington. She came to Maryland in her wheelchair. We have to do this. They have to take it off the market for people like Linda Bricado, like, millions of others.
Yeah, and I think that the main thing is Freya has helped thousands of people. You guys can be in this position as you're healing ALS, as you're finding out the danger of these fillings. You can help thousands of people. You can help people with your Facebook post. Say, hey guys, this is what happened to me. This is danger. In Denver, one of the people with ALS that we met, Sally, Sally, you can share afterwards if you're on. Guess what? Her first ALS symptoms happened in New York when she got a bunch of mercury fillings replaced with white ones, but in an unsafe manner. She's a young woman, and that was the instigator of her ALS. So today, I'm not going to show you Ben Zander's. We could play it after if we want.
The FDA in 2020, they looked at the dental amalgam issue again. And now all they say is it's still legal. It's not safe for people who have neurological issues or children under 6. And yet they allow it to stay on the market. And it's, for the most part, from what I have heard, a large percentage of dentists are not using it any longer because of their exposure, because of their assistant's exposure, and the patients. But poor people, they're getting amalgam fillings, because it's less time consuming and it's less expensive. And that is no reason to continue to poison people and to harm them. It is my feeling that the American Dental Association does not want the public to know this. So the FDA won't do it. If the FDA takes them off the market and says they're dangerous, who do we look at? The American Dental Association approved dental filling, silver amalgam dental fillings in 1886 or 1889, I believe. That's how long they've been used. And okay, at that time, perhaps they didn't know about it. But mercury is the second most toxic element on the face of this earth. It doesn't belong in our teeth, and it doesn't belong in our bodies. It's been removed from all kinds of products, but not dental amalgam. So what I say now is FDA. I hope Dr. Sharfstein is listening to this program, because he and I were he is the FDA representative who I communicated with. And I felt that, his hands were tied and he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. So, by the way, it says not safe. This is actually officially the FDA says it's not safe. So just to be very clear, the FDA in 2020 said it is not safe for neurological issues. They actually admit that, but the dentists aren't told and the people aren't told. So even though it is officially not allowed for pregnant women and under 6, not allowed for people with neurological issues, yet the dentists are still doing it. Scott's grandson, 4 years old, got a silver filling. And his mom knew best, but his dad took him to the dentist and didn't even think about it. He didn't know.
That was really bad. It's like he snuck him to the dentist, and the dentist put it in a 4-year-old, knowing that on the actual label of the box itself, it says not for pregnant women and not anyone under 6. And it was really bad. It was.
So anyway, I think that's about it. I wanted to be your own advocate. I think that was the other thing. Be your own advocate. You've got to protect yourself and your family. I think that's what I learned from all this. You cannot assume that just because your doctor or dentist is told by the AMA or the ADA that this is safe, it doesn't mean it's safe. We're at the very top. It doesn't take much. If the very top government officials are paid off and they're working for Big Pharma, they're not going to tell you about side effects of anything. I wish.
Let me just ask one question. So the FDA now says it's not safe for people with neurological issues. How are those people with neurological issues going to find that out if they don't know to look at the FDA statement? Most people go to the dentist. They don't go to the FDA website first to look for it. They go to a dentist. Just like we were never told that they were 50% mercury. Who is telling these patients if they have a neurological problem, do not let the dentist put that in your mouth? I don't know. Do you?
Good question. Freya, thank you so much for coming on and presenting your story.